Any war has different phases, and the war in Ukraine is no exception. Unlike the more conventional perception of the battle, where armored vehicles such as main battle tanks are considered the drivers of warfare, today, drones have become a critical technology that allows any country to dominate the battlefield. In this regard, Russia and Ukraine have taken drone warfare to an unprecedented scale. In June, different reports mentioned that Ukraine loses 10,000 drones every month to counter Russian forces. Recently, Ukraine intensified drone attacks on Russia.
Gunfire and explosions have been heard here and in the second city of Kharkiv shortly after the Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Watch this video to understand about drone warfare and how and why Ukraine uses drones to counter Russian forces. Chapter 1. Early Invasion. The Russian invasion of Ukraine showed how combat drones might be effective against large columns of tanks and armored vehicles. On this map, you can see how the Russian armed forces launched massive land attacks on Ukraine's capital Kiev from north and northeast in February of last year. One of the ways to repel Russian forces was to use combat Bayraktar drones, which target large columns of Russian tanks and armored vehicles and force them to retreat. On February 27, 2022, Ukrainian General Serhiy Shaptala shared on Twitter video footage of a successful attack by the Bayraktar TB2s against a Russian Buk surface-to-air missile system near a town about 100 kilometers northwest of Kiev. This marks the first instance of Ukraine using the TB2s against Russian forces since the invasion. In the early days of the war, Ukrainian forces released drone footage that clearly depicts a Ukrainian ambush on a Russian armored column situated in close proximity to Brovary, a suburb in the eastern part of Kiev. As per Bellingcat's open-source investigation, the video has been geolocated to a sparsely populated area on the E95 road, approximately 22 miles or 35 kilometers away from Kiev center. It's important to note that this road serves as a direct route to the east of the capital, where Russian forces have been relentlessly gathering. Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister Mikhailo Fedorov said the government-supported private groups in Ukraine have successfully trained 10,000 drone pilots in the past year, which has proven crucial in gaining a combat advantage. In the next 6 months, their goal is to train an additional 10,000 pilots. While the US and Turkey have provided advanced military drones, the Ukrainians mostly rely on affordable Chinese models, which can be purchased for $2,000 or less online, which won't buy you 2 iPhones today. These drones are primarily used for reconnaissance, giving the Ukrainians an advantage over their Russian counterparts. Moreover, they've modified the drones with a claw that can carry a small explosive, such as a grenade, allowing them to accurately drop it into a Russian trench or the open-top hatch of a tank. Now, before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos on geopolitics and changing world order and power landscape. Let's continue for now. Chapter 2. First drone attacks on Russian soil. By the end of 2022, Ukraine will be conducting the most brazen drone strike on Russia. According to reports from Russian media, a drone attack caused damage to the runway of the Engels II Strategic Bomber Military Air Base located in the southwestern Saratov region, and also at the Dyageleva Military Air Base, situated at the Ryazan region, approximately 400 miles from the Ukrainian border. A Telegram news channel named Astra stated that the 2 planes that were damaged were the Tupolev Tu-95 strategic nuclear bombers. These planes are capable of carrying cruise missiles that have been used in the past to attack Ukraine's infrastructure. However, they are also significant components of Russia's strategic forces and nuclear deterrence capabilities. A satellite image shared by Reuters showed bomber aircrafts at Engels Air Base in Saratov, Russia, after the strikes on December 4th. You may be wondering why Ukraine did that. Well, since the start of the war, Russian cruise missiles have been a severe problem for Ukraine, as Russia has been pummeling Ukraine's civilian and military infrastructure. In May, Russia increased the use of its long-range missiles against Kiev. So from day one of the war, unsurprisingly, Ukrainian troops attempted to cripple Russia's long-range attack capability. During the same month, the Engels Air Base in Russia was once again targeted in an overnight drone attack, resulting in the deaths of 3 servicemen. This indicated Ukraine's preparedness to confront offensive threats well beyond its border regions. Military experts said that the recent strikes were executed by Ukrainian Tupolev Tu-141, a Soviet-era reconnaissance unmanned aircraft system, UAS, that was converted to serve as a cruise missile. Chapter 3. Drone strikes on Moscow. Just a couple of months ago, as Ukraine's drone capabilities grew, its armed forces attacked Moscow for the first time. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, 8 drones attacked the city overnight. However, Russian media sources related to the security services reported that the number of drones involved in the attack was much higher, exceeding 30. It seems that one of the drones used was a UJ-22, made by the Ukrainian company Ukrejet. The UJ-22 resembles a miniature airplane and can travel up to 800 kilometers while flying for 6 hours. Since the attack on the Kremlin on May 3rd, Muscovites have been on edge, although the recent drone attack only caused minor damage to 2 buildings. The drones were spotted flying over the Moscow region during the day at a low altitude, hovering just a few meters above the ground. The footage seems to match the images of the unmanned aerial vehicle that Russia claims to have used in other attempted attacks. But why does Ukraine need to attack Moscow, as it's far from the front lines? Besides, attacks on Moscow had little effect on Russia's military capability. You see, it's more effective when you force the enemy to concentrate on its territory, whether conducting offensive operations. Ukraine may be following this logic. After recent drone attacks on Moscow, Zelensky warned that war is returning to the territory of Russia. Let's look at the situation this way. The drone attacks force Russia to pin more air defense capabilities within the territory of Russia, leaving the front lines with less of an air defense umbrella. This way, Ukraine aviation has to worry less when striking Russian forces, targeting ammunition storages or command posts. Moreover, it opens more opportunities for Ukraine's Western-provided long-range missile systems to hit the targets along the front line and beyond. However, the opinions of military experts differ on the subject. According to Gustav Gressel, a military expert at the Berlin office of the European Council on Foreign Relations, distinguishing between the drone attacks on Moscow and the Belgorod matter, and attacks in the border region is crucial. Gressel explains that the drone attacks on Moscow were intended to be psychological warfare, creating loud noise to wake up Russian officials early in the morning. The Belgorod matter and border attacks, on the other hand, are related to counteroffensive operations. According to Oleg Ignatov from the International Crisis Group, Ukraine is attempting to increase the cost of the war for Russia. While the U.S. has significant influence over Ukraine, it does not extend to every area. Ignatov thinks that Washington will be able to convince Kiev not to employ U.S. weapons like the HIMARS rocket launchers to assault Russian territory, but that it would not be able to do much more. Finally, one can argue that Ukraine's recent drone attacks on Moscow are more of a morale boost for Ukrainian forces than a military advantage. However, the drone strikes on Russia prove that Ukraine could target Russia's strategic military object, and there's more to it, but we'll talk about it in the next chapter. Chapter 4. Drone strikes on the Russian fleet. When you hear something like a drone strike, what comes to your mind first? You would most likely think about an attack by a remotely operated flying piece of technology. However, drones today have another dimension, as they can work not only in the sky, but in the sea as well. According to reports, the Ukrainian Navy launched a drone attack on Russia's Black Sea naval base at Novorossiysk, significantly damaging a Russian warship. This marks the first time the Ukrainian Navy has demonstrated its capabilities so far from its shores. As a result of the attack, civilian ship movement at the port was temporarily halted, causing concern as the port is responsible for handling 2% of the world's oil supply and exporting grain. However, normal operations have since resumed, as confirmed by the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, which operates an oil terminal in the area. Moreover, here you observe a Ukrainian naval drone that may have targeted a Russian oil tanker in the Kerch Strait near occupied Crimea, marking a significant attack. The Kiev Maritime Agency has warned that all Russian ports should be considered a war risk area. Why may have targeted? Because Ukraine did not officially confirm the drone attacks as their operation. However, given the mass usage of drones on the front lines and long-range operations, it's unsurprising that Russia and Ukraine are ramping up drone production. But more on this in the final chapter of the video. Chapter 5. The Drone Race. The amount of drones used in Ukraine is staggering. Although the numbers vary, as already mentioned, Ukraine loses thousands of different types of drones every month. Already in October of last year, Russian sources have been claiming that Russia launched a massive production of drones. On May 26th, Kalashnikov, a well-known Russian arms manufacturer and creator of the widely used assault rifle, announced the launch of a new division dedicated to producing kamikaze drones. These drones have played a vital role in the Ukraine war, with Ukrainian forces utilizing Western, Israeli, and Turkish drones to significant effect during the initial stages of the conflict. Similarly, Ukraine has been increasing its production of various types of drones, which they believe could be a substantial advantage on the battlefield. So it would be a safe bet to say that we might expect an intensification of drone strikes between Ukraine and Russia. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. This is the channel where you can have all the books about geopolitical subjects, which intentionally or unintentionally get ignored in the mainstream media. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.